Okay, ladies, I'm going to introduce you now to our actual project in concrete forms. The boss man has given us this blueprint, and this is a small concrete form for a footer for some brickwork to go on top of it. So what we're going to do to start with is we got to do a little thinking and a little look at it, and we got to evaluate this plan. And the first goal is try to get an understanding of it and what it's going to look like, and then be able to actually assemble it together and come up with a list of the pieces that we need, and then we'll go through the assembly. To start off with, we notice it's an L shape, carpentry class concrete form build. The scale is 1/2 to 1 inch. So every 1/2 inch on the plan is 1 inch in real world. So this project is only just about twice as big as this piece of paper is. Good way to look at it, 1/2 to 1. So what I'm looking at overall, and I'm starting to look at my dimensions. I've got some numbers here, 18, 12, 6, 6, and this one says 6.5. So evaluating this blueprint, we're going to do a little bit of thinking to figure out the lengths of things. But I notice also, if you look right here in these joints, you can see that this board, whatever it is, passes through past this one, and this one butts into it. When you look here on this end, the board here on the end goes past both ends. You got to, okay, so they're showing me where the joint is. I've got a little hidden line here, so it means this board is on top of those two boards. Now I'm starting to look at my notes. It's telling me my studs are 3/4 inch by 1.5 inches. So really what you're gonna do is take a piece of 2x4 and rip it down 3/4 of an inch wide, and then you're going to cut it. Nope, I gotta look somewhere else to find the measurement for that. So I know I got 3/4 by 1.5 inches off a piece of scrap of 2x4. My form boards say 3/4 inch by 3.5. So you're gonna take a piece of plywood, rip it down 3.5 inches wide. You're gonna take a piece that's already 3/4 inch thick, makes that easy, rip it 3.5 wide. So what that tells me is my studs are actually 3.5 inches long, and they'll look something like this. A little block that's 3.5 inches long. 3/4, 1.5 inches, 3.5 inches long, the same width as my form boards. All right, so I know what material I have now. I know that these are studs, so it's implied that the rest of these little rectangles are all studs. And then I've got foam boards that are 3.5 inches wide. So what I got to do is start figuring out my numbers and lengths, and then we'll start assembling. Now, as I got to this point to calculate my total materials needed, my materials takeoff, I'm going to look at my form boards. From point A to point B is inside measurement of 18. If I notice the lines on this board, it is at 18, so I'm gonna need one board at 18. I've got inside to inside is 12, but this one goes past here, it stops there. So I've got 12 plus the width of that, which is 3/4, so I got a board at 12 3/4. Inside to inside at the top here is 6, but this board goes past on both sides, so I've got to add the double thickness, 3/4 to 6, that's 7.5. Coming my way around, I've got 6 in the clearance here, but this board stops short and butts into that one. So I've got 6 minus 1/4, and I got 5 1/4 for that board. Back to my little math figure, and I got 18 minus 6 leaves 12 inches across here. There's no 12, it's an implied 12. And that board stops short and goes the same. Yep, it's my full 12, so this board is 12 inches. My outside to outside, if I got 6, double the sides, I got 7.5, which is the same as this one, and I'm back around. Now my studs and my spreaders, as we talked about earlier, my studs are going to be attached to the side of my form boards, so they end up being the same height as my form boards in this particular case. If you're doing studs for real, literally what you do is you take a 2x4, or you can buy them and you actually have ones with a point on them, and they'll be anywhere to a couple feet in length that you can drive into the ground. But for our cases, we're just going to keep them at the 3.5. So we've got that. Let me count my number of studs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then I've got one spreader bar, which is out of the same material, 3/4, 1.5, 3/4, 1.5, same material. So I got one spreader bar, which is the exact same length of this one. So that spreader bar is going to be 7.5, and it's going to look like that. So what you're going to do is make yourself a materials list, and it'll look something like this. It's just a cut list. 3/4 ply. I'm going to rip it down 3.5 inches wide, but then I'm going to cut one piece at 18, one piece at 12 3/4, one piece at 12, two pieces at 7 1/2, and one piece at 5 1/4. On my stud material, that are 3 1/2 long, I'm gonna have 11. My 7 1/2, solo uno. That means one. All right, we are ready. Once you have your materials cut out, we're actually gonna lay this thing out dry, and then we'll start assembling.